Now, if we are familiar with the writings, sometimes the Bible writers wrote chronologically, say Genesis chapter 1, that talks about the origin of man and the universe. And at other times, these writers wrote thematically, Genesis chapter 2. Sometimes they focused on a group of people. If you check Matthew 20 verse 1, you see. And at other times, they targeted a person within a group. Check John 20 verse 1. Now, speaking of the Bible again, it is divided into the Old and the New Testament. We have the Old Testament that comprises of 39 books. The first 5 books are called the books of the law, then the 12 books of history, the 5 books of poetry, and the books of the minor and the major prophets. While the New Testament, on the other hand, comprises of 27 books with 5 divisions. We have the 4 Gospel, the book of Christian history, the 13 Pauline epistle, the 8 general epistle, and 1 apocalyptical epistle. Speaking of the writers, the first 5 books of the Old Testament were composed by Moses. Many of the Psalms were written by David. Ezra penned the book that bears his name. Nehemiah wrote the Old Testament book. King Solomon penned the majority of the Proverbs, the entire books of Ecclesiastes, and Songs of Solomon. The Apostle Paul wrote 13 of the 27 New Testament books. Luke penned the Gospel account that bears his name, as well as the book of Acts. Okay, now we know that these writers were separated in time and place. They also had different occupation. Moses was a trained leader in the University of Egypt. Joshua, a military general. Nehemiah was a cupbearer to the king Artaxerxes. Solomon, a king. Matthew, a tax collector. These writers also wrote in different places. Moses wrote in the wilderness, Jeremiah in the dungeon, John in exile, Paul inside the prison wall, and others in the rigors of military campaign. And they also wrote at different times. David wrote in times of war, Solomon in times of peace, some writing from the heights of joy, and some from the depths of sorrow and despair. Isn't this so amazing? Despite the difference in time and place and culture, these 66 books that compose the Bible fit together perfectly.
As you await the next video, do well to subscribe, share, and turn on the notification button so you can get notified when next I upload the next video.